Handheld versus gimbal.
I know you got some hot takes on this one.
Recently, we've been getting into this because of our different styles within sports.
Right.
I mean, handheld is completely a sports thing. One of my favorite things that I've seen is, like, right when a clip begins, people do a handheld kind of shake, but just getting a wide shot of just the environment that the video is about to go down in. Like, say the video takes place in a field or something, or under the train tracks, whatever. You get this wide establishing shot, but a little shaky, just kind of checking out the area. That's when you know, like, how the entire video is going to go, I feel like. Like, when you can go in and make and kind of grasp a feel within the first 5 seconds of a video, I think that is, like, one of the best things. Like, you kind of understand, like, how this editing style is going to be, whether it's, like, I'd say that's more of, like, an indie type look, just that handheld establishing shot. Because, I mean, when you get into the more cinematic stuff, like, kind of pulling away from that indie look and going more into, like, this YouTuber-esque cinematic type thing, it's like, okay, you start off with this drone just swooping in or something, instead of, like, just a shaky, cool, like, I mean, they're both sick. But
no, I agree. There's a time
and
and place for both of them, but I know you've pretty much always been pro handheld.
I've been
because you like
so
the indie
pro,
look.
and I'm not anti-gimbal.
Yeah.
I mean,
you have a gimbal. You were the first person I knew that had a Ronin S, actually.
I own a gimbal, and I suck with it. I was one of the first people to get it. I wanted to absolutely flex on No, I'm kidding. Yeah. I wanted to get a stabilized, awesome shot, and I suck at it.
Yeah,
and I don't know how you can suck at something.
It's so much harder than people give it credit for.
A little bit.
I mean,
the newer ones definitely will help you out no matter what. But, like, the older versions, such as the RS Ronin,
it definitely takes
a little
skill.
manual.
It takes more skill than people give credit for.
Right.
Like, I know after I've done so many real estate shoots that are all gimbal, I've gotten a lot better with the Ronin. And it is tough to get, like, those longer shots.
But there's a bit of a learning curve.
I think whenever you get out of your whole mindset of having to shoot 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second, whenever you get out of the mindset of having to shoot slow-mo all the time, then you get more towards handheld. Yeah. Because 24 frames per second on a gimbal doesn't – or 24 frames per second on a gimbal doesn't look as good as 24 frames per second handheld.
No, you shouldn't. Yeah. I mean, you should. I mean, all movies are filmed in 24 frames per second.
I think, actually, I would say once you get more comfortable and confident in your shooting abilities, then you go more towards handheld, because gimbal, slow-mo, all those things, they're kind of crutches at the end of the day. And you have to go through that phase where you might end up in your edit doing real time, but you still shot in 60 frames.
Oh, totally.
It takes balls to shoot something in 24 frames per second.
It takes some gonads.
Because you are not turning that into slow-mo footage, period.
No, you're not.
So I almost think it's a maturity thing as you get more work under your belt. And you'll see I know for me, I'd never considered shooting in 24 frames per second until I saw a project, and it was this handheld look. Everything looked good, but there was this nice motion blur to it. I was like, what? Why? I don't understand. And then I look into how it happened, and so they're not shooting with the ability to maybe go in slow-mo.
With 24, it's 10 times better, I'd say. And I think I realized how much better it was once I started to hear people talk about how they only use that for their bigger films and stuff like that. I'm like, wait, this is kind of and I don't even know if there's something about that makes it like a sharper, more cinematic image too. Like, I think it is that motion blur that you get when it's moving around or something. And with sports, I mean, having cameras that have the ability to have lock focus now and stick with that 24 frames per second, but also just dialing in on that one subject.
Yeah, and I can't believe we haven't touched on this yet, and this is the fourth one we've recorded. Yeah. We shot the Bambi Ad together, which I haven't put anything about that on my channel yet.
Let's talk about that.
I think we should talk a lot about that. Yeah. And that video in itself was all 24 frames per second. Yeah. I think aside from 2 shots that we ended up using. I think we did some 120 on your camera. Yeah. And the one specifically going through the trees.
Yep.
You were looking through the trees. That bird flies past. 120 frames per second worked well for that because we could speed ramp that bird, and then it's so dynamic.
And it's a short clip too.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know if it was 24
Yeah,
or not.
that
I mean,
video,
you would with the slow-mo, but...
That video would not have been nearly as good if we shot it all in 120 frames a second and it was all just slow-mo. It doesn't... It's very...
It's one of those...
It's
I know. And I remember jumping in the car with you. Well, I'll give you a rundown of how this day started, too. This was one of my final weeks of school. I was taking this environmental science class, and I had a pretty big lab going on that day. I mean, these labs were like 3 hours long or something. And I remember waking up one of those mornings, I just got to do this, whatever, get it over with. You call me up, hey, do you want to shoot some golf stuff? Duh. Like 100%, dude. Like, let's do it. Throw a little cash your way, whatever. That doesn't even matter. We're going out to shoot on a golf course. Like, I'll take that over anything. So I ended up missing the lab. We went out there. I remember getting in the car and we're talking about how we want to make this look and everything. And I remember you and I both turned to each other and we're like, 24 frames per second. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how the look is going to be today. Like, we both like kind of had the same idea going into it. And we definitely want to do some more work with Benzie here soon. And I thought just the clips that we put together, especially your just quick sequencing that you did.
We shot it all in 8K 24.
8K, blew up my computer.
First time actually shooting an entire project in 8K.
Yeah,
but
not doing that again. Sorry.
It turned out so good.
It was
disgustingly sharp.
It was sexy. I know.
But a shoot like that, I really don't think our final product would have been as good if we even shot it all in 60 frames per second and then did real time at the end. Because the first shot that comes to mind that was just the best for 24 frames per second was, I'll give you credit, totally your idea, the golf cart one of us rolling up. So if you've watched the video, maybe I'll have it up on screen right now. We had this shot where we should have shot a TikTok of that, like a behind the scenes of that. But
we'll do that.
Rolling up. So I was driving the cart. Brenton had the camera in his hand, just handheld, bare bones R5 with a 24-70 and an ND filter.
Bare bones.
And just we would cue Joe when he should hit the ball. So we would come up from behind, riding up, rolling, staying low to the ground, moving fast. Would cue him, hey, go ahead. And then he would swing, and we would come around him. Camera movement would be shaky, but perfect. And if we were on a gimbal there, which we considered using a gimbal at one point, but it turned out better because we did it.
And we want to get to the next hole too. So I think that had a lot to do with using the gimbal or not. But, I mean, I'm pro handheld. I was actually the one vouching for the gimbal at this point. I think you were telling me, hey, let's roll handheld for this. And I was like,
roll reversal.
I was like, all right, I'll hold my breath and hold this sucker. So you just gun it and pedal to the metal. We're flying on this golf cart. Joe. Coming up behind him. It's just this. I think the best thing about it too, when you're shooting 24 frames as well, and you're getting a shot like that with that amount of motion going on, is just the ground underneath. Like, I wanted to see that blur from the fairway.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
that's one of my favorite things about those kinds of shots. And like, I like to see like drone footage when they shoot 24 too and stuff like that. Like, that's always like just beautiful to watch when you just see the sides of whatever environment you're in, whether it's trees or grass or some flowers on the side, but just it blurring on by. And you're just speeding on to your subject, you know? Yeah. And right when we pulled up to Joe, I mean, we were in focus. It was good. So, definitely check out that Benzie video. I think we are going to put it right there as we talked about it.
I think a note is to, if you're shooting in 24 frames per second, make sure that your shutter is 1/50, or else you won't get that motion blur.
No.
You need an ND filter to compensate for that. So for the new creative starting out, I know a lot of people probably know this already, but if you're a new creative not really shooting that much, make sure that your shutter speed is twice your frame rate.
Yeah, and I mean 50 to 1/100th is also fine, but anywhere in that space, I mean, I'd go with 50 for sure.
Yeah. It'll just give you that motion blur, give you that cinematic look, and that's what we're looking for. We're trying to make our footage look as good as we possibly can, and that's just a little trick that we've kind of learned throughout doing this.
That process,
But let's dive more into what we think the perks of using handheld and the perks of using gimbal are more. So for me, I would say when I'm using a gimbal most of the time, it's whenever it is a cinematic sequence. Now, cinematic can be that raw look where you're doing handheld, but for the most part, when I'm shooting a real estate video, it's all gimbal because I need long, smooth shots.
Yeah.
Needs to be very much to slower music and just nice, clean look.
Yeah.
Another time I use gimbal is if I'm shooting a corporate video.
Right.
So I guess a good rule of thumb is if your client isn't a creative mind, use a gimbal. Right. That sounds weird, but those people, they want the smoothness of it. If you give them a shaky shot,
I mean, they will like anything you end up putting together as long as it looks great, obviously. But and how you determine cinematic, it's different for everyone, you know. Yeah. But at the same time, I was just going to get into that. Shooting a corporate film, it's like you want to have everything pretty stabilized because that's the look of just a clean easygoing project. You know, it's.
Yeah, I think you just kind of read your client and what it is. Because whenever we're talking to Joe from Benzie, and he wants us to make what we think is going to look great. Right. And on top of that, you can kind of read somebody. He shows up in these cool pants. He's got Jordans on. You're like, all right, this guy has an eye. The gear's cool. So it's like you kind of read your audience in a way. Right. You figure out, okay, I can get more creative, less creative.
It's a stylistic approach to understanding the brand. I mean, it's totally feeling out the brand. And I mean, and I was just thinking with brands such as like Nike or just any bigger corporations like that, it's like you can go either way with those kinds of projects, you know what I mean? And like if you see something that's similar but that's just starting off, I mean, you can still go either way. But for us, seeing how Benzie was and kind of looking at his way of going about things, it's like, okay, we can start from wherever at this point, and we think that would be the best look.
And I mean, I think when it comes to handheld, I think the better times to do that are, like I was mentioning, when you're working with a more creative brand or just creative client. And also sometimes shoot handheld whenever you don't know what your surroundings are going to be. For me, whenever I'm shooting an event, a lot of the times, I'll shoot handheld because there might be a time where I don't have time to turn my Ronin on and make sure it's perfectly balanced. Yeah. You know, there's been times where I'm shooting and there's celebrities around. There's these shots I need to get, and they're like, I can't say it, but there was a rapper and he was coming in, and he was gonna be there within. He could walk in 30 seconds. He could walk in 20 minutes. Yeah, that's how it works a lot of times working with celebrities. But I was like, do I even have time to get my Ronin? Right. If I would have went to put my camera, balance it on the Ronin, I would have missed him coming out.
Totally. Yeah.
So, just knowing the circumstance that you're in, it's so. You can make anything look smooth if you need to. With some smooth, you do the heel to toe walk. Yeah, you do a little bit of warp stabilizer.
Warp is definitely a good tool.
So I would say if you have no idea what your surroundings are going to be, handheld's probably the best because you can achieve both styles.
You can.
And it comes back to just knowing your camera as well, and just be smart. Sometimes you got to put the priority is capturing the moment instead of getting the good shot.
Right. And for instance, I mean, a wedding is completely capturing the moment. When you have everything set and you've got a partner on board doing a wedding. I mean, I've only did a couple the last year, but I actually was shooting one, and I ended up going completely handheld. It was just me. I was the only videographer that was on set to do that day, and I had my gimbal. I totally brought it, and I was ready to use it throughout the full day. And I had a little issue with transferring on and off and trying to get moments like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm leaving this in my car. Going to let it charge, and maybe the after party I'll get some stuff, you know? Mm-hmm. And it was just like I was so much better off just shooting completely handheld. But, I mean, that was pretty difficult just doing that all on my own because, I mean, it's a wedding. You want these different angles. You want audio going on. You want to be close to the people who are talking, whether it's the bridesmaid or whoever's just giving the speech, best man, you know? And that was a challenging time just running around that wedding, but it turned out great and I was happy with it. But the whole gimbal handheld, that was one of those situations where I was like, you know, handheld is the way to go.
Sometimes you're just better off, you know, trusting yourself and making sure that you're available to get the shot than making it look so crazy, because there's nothing worse than stopping a moment whenever you're like, wait, my camera's not ready. It's like, oh, dude. Totally. Especially if it's a wedding, an event, you're just like, oh man. I actually saw a clip. It was disgusting. It was a TikTok. It was this wedding photographer. The kiss was about to happen during the ceremony, and the photographer goes, wait, I'm not in my spot yet.
Oh, dude.
Imagine doing that.
Idiot. Oh, was this like a did he post it, or was it
somebody else is like blowing him up for it?
Oh, he should get blown up.
Doing
he should be exposed to every...
I'd rather...
Dude, it's a wedding. Those people wanted... That's the biggest day ever.
Yeah.
Besides, I don't know.
Yeah, literally.
Funeral.
I think that's the cool thing about shooting weddings, and not to change the subject, but the cool thing about shooting weddings is that's the biggest day of somebody's life. Every single time.
Yeah. But you get past that pressure. I mean, the first one, you're like, you'll talk to somebody, whether it's your parent or your good friend, it's like, you know, you're about to shoot somebody's biggest day of their life.
Yeah.
But
I'm not even saying from a pressure sense. I'm saying
I know you're not.
More so like, that's what makes it so cool to shoot, because, you know, if you're just shooting a bunch of corporate events, a lot of the times they don't care about that video that much.
Right.
But when it's somebody's wedding, they care.
They care.
And they want it to be amazing.
They do.
And to have not only you wanting to make the video amazing, but to have the client reciprocate that, it's a cool feeling.
And shooting for someone who's also a videographer.
Yeah.
Did you feel any pressure from that? I know you recently were just in Greece.
Yeah, so I was in Greece shooting a wedding, and I didn't feel that much pressure because I've worked with him in the past.
Right.
And I know he just trusted me. You know, he wouldn't have asked me to do it if he didn't trust me. And I almost felt less pressure because I had a previous relationship with him and his soon-to-be wife.
Yeah.
And it felt good. And so Pat is shooting my brother's wedding.
Oh, is he?
In September. And he's joked with me. He's like, man, I'm nervous about it. He's like, I'm more nervous about showing it to you than showing it to him. But I felt that a little bit whenever I was shooting Loggie's wedding in Greece.
Yeah.
And there is this little added pressure. I shot John's engagement recently.
Yep.
And it's like, man, I can't mess this up. I actually was shooting John's engagement, and I'm just like firing off photos. And my camera starts buffering at one point. And I was like, I can't even shoot right now.
Engagements are crazy, dude.
I'm just waiting for it to load. And I'm like, if I miss this one. And I ended up getting it. And I told him after the fact, I was like, dude, my camera started buffering. And he starts laughing about it. But there was an added pressure to it because, you know, if I mess something up shooting my friend's wedding video and he knows how things are done, he'll be like, what? Like, you could have done this to make it work. It's not like telling a random client because then they're like, they don't understand, which is good and bad, but my gosh. I was a little bit nervous, but it was cool at the same time. It's more fun to shoot weddings whenever you know the people that you're shooting.
Oh, totally.
It makes it a little bit more magical.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, you're feeling for both of them getting married. You're feeling for the audience there.
Yeah.
Like the whole environment. You're just like, okay, I'm into this. I'm passionate. Let's make it even better.
Yeah, and that one was a 3-day event. They had festivities the Monday night, all day Tuesday, and then the wedding was Wednesday.
They're going all out.
So it was kind of cool too to like meet them and meet the families. Because then by the wedding day, you like have a relationship with different people.
Yeah, jumping into it's kind of hard. You know, like I mean, the last wedding I did, I totally just jumped into it. And I mean, it was a blast, but there was also another photographer there that I didn't know. Like I didn't know where I should be around that person because I had no relationship with them at all. And they've been doing it for years, you know? I mean, photography, that was their main thing to do. And I mean, it's different when you've been doing one thing forever and somebody jumps in and starts doing it. Because I've done other projects. I'm not just a wedding photographer, videographer. So I was just like, shoot, I might be stepping on some toes here.
The photographer was actually very skeptical of me and Sean, the guy that I brought, because he looked at our Instagrams and didn't see any weddings. He's like, do they not even shoot weddings? Let's go. And like, I've shot weddings, but I don't market myself as a wedding photographer or a videographer. But
it's like, just wait, pal.
Yeah, just wait. You'll see.
Just wait. Have you even shot a wedding photos?
The photographer shot it all on film.
Oh, he
The
did.
entire wedding, medium format.
That's sketchy.
Insane. That's what I told him. I was like, you are wild for that. But he had 2 people with him that were on digital to kind of save him.
Oh.
But dude, I'm talking. He's sitting there and he waited for the kiss. The kiss. I heard him shoot this photo, and it was the last shot on his roll of film. Talk about balls, dude. You misfocused. Your settings are messed up.
Did you know it was the last?
I don't know, but I heard him take it, and you know how, and it like winds the whole film.
Wow.
Up. And I was like, I talked to him after about it. I was like, doesn't that make you nervous? He's like, I've done it so many times, and he's like, it's just part of doing it.
That's sweet. That's
kind of
cool. That's what makes that's a cool story.
Yeah.
That's what makes those kinds of things
That's
so much cooler
wild.
than it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Film's completely manual. It's
crazy to me.
That is
fact
crazy.
That he shot, like, we showed up and he had this medium format camera. He actually had a light meter. Which
Yeah.
I sound like an idiot. I've never used one before, and he was using. I was like, "What is that thing?" I asked him. He was like, "Oh, this is how I get my settings." Because he would walk up to them and like click it, and it would tell him his settings, and he would dial them.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Man, I didn't even know that was a thing."
No, those are wild. I mean, you can get those on your phone now too
Yeah.
if you ever end up shooting.
Yeah, but it was crazy. It was so
film,
cool to see that. I've never experienced somebody actually. I mean, it takes balls.
Yeah.
We're sitting here talking about, slow-mo or real time. He's like, I might not get these photos.
Yeah, like he's on the brink, and we're over here just chilling.
He's like, if a shipment gets lost, sorry?
Oh, totally. Oh, man.
Crazy.
That's quite the story. Yeah, but back to engagements. Yeah, mine, I was off of Lakeshore Drive near that one area where you can face downtown, like the John Hancock and stuff, just hanging out. And they were taking a little bit longer than I thought they were going to take. Because, I mean, they said they were walking up. So I pull up, and I'm waiting there, kind of in a bush. I felt like I should have had, like, a full-on ghillie suit on at that point. I'm like, wow, I'm really doing this right now. I felt like I was hunting for some ducks or something. But I'm just waiting there with my long lens, just hanging out. And finally, he just shoots me another little text. And I could tell this guy was just nervous. Like it was kind of adorable.
He called
you know,
like
no, but like I could start to see which one he was. It was the only couple that were just kind of being a little awkward just because he knew what was going on. I could tell like it was building up some because not that I knew the guy at all. I mean, this was a totally random person that I got connected to, but I could just tell like he was ready. And so they're coming around. They finally just post up right in front of me. He gets down. I mean, I didn't have it on continuous shooting either. I was just like waiting for just perfect shots, just clicking slowly, and they were all just right on. Like I was just like, let's go. And then I ran out, and I'm like, congrats. And then the girl's like, this is insane. Like it was just crazy to see that moment happen. Like that was just one of those times where I was like just amazed and happy with what I was doing, you know. And it was super cool to do that.
It makes it so real too, you know, because. You know, you can sit there, you can make videos, send them off for your computer, and send them a link, and you never really see the reaction.
Right.
And it reminds me of whenever I shot a wedding, and I edited a wedding. I was brought on to be an on-site editor. And so a friend of mine was shooting, and throughout the day, he would come and dump his footage to me. And then by the end of the day, we had the full video done, and they rented a projector for us to play it whenever everybody was dancing.
Wow.
So, you know, they'd be getting, you know, the bride and groom are getting ready.
Right.
He would come give me the footage. I would edit that part of the video. The ceremony happened. I would take that. I would edit that. So then by the end of the night, the video's totally done to a song that they already picked. And we play it to everybody. Dude, it was so rewarding because you get to see the actual reaction. Talk about some
crunch time, though. Yeah.
But exporting that and then playing it, and it's just like first time watching it through.
Yeah. Well, how long would you say you had to edit it? Or
well, I got there around noon, I believe, which was right after they were done getting ready. And I think we ended up playing it around 7 or 8 o'clock.
Gotcha.
But I didn't have 7 or 8 hours to do it because I got the intro stuff. It's not like I had all the footage at noon. You know, I would have to get the footage from the first dances, and they're like, hey, we want to play the video in 30 minutes. So I'm sitting back there, already have the coloring already.
Right.
You know, pretty much like marked up, so I just have to chop clips.
Oh, yeah.
And I put it in, and then I just have to export immediately without even watching it through once. And it was just so cool to play it to everybody and like actually see
the reaction.
It's like how people have to feel like a movie premiere.
Yeah.
Because
think about that feeling though.
It's like what people always say. It's, oh, you have 10,000 subscribers on YouTube or 10,000 views on this video. Imagine being in a room with 10,000
all those people.
And it was kind of my first realization. There wasn't 10,000 people there, maybe 200 people.
Yeah.
But it was just like, man, all these people are watching my video right now.
And that gets you pumped up for hopefully getting to that point.
Yeah.
We're early filmmakers here. We want to get to the point where we're at. I mean, it would be amazing to be in a theater looking around and seeing
me, you, and Pat make a feature film. That'd be
sick
so full
feature.
circle.
Oh, it would be awesome. Let's do it.